Hey y'all, welcome back. Pro Physique Code. I have two very amazing coaches with me today. First of all, I am Coach Jess. Hey guys, awkward intro. And I have Coach Phil and Christina on with me. How are you guys today?
Doing fantastic. I love that you are fully embracing your Texan side, leading off with a very strong y'all. So
I know. I heard that and I was like digging in. I love it. She's like, I'm committed.
Funny story is that before we moved to Texas, before we even thought about moving to Texas, I would say y'all, and it would piss Bob off. He's like, you can't say that. You're not from Texas. And I was like, pardon? So now I can say it. So I say it all the time, just to spite.
So instead of saying pardon, the Southern thing to do would have been, oh, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Yep.
That's the Southern thing.
I love it. You'll learn all the
ways. They also say, have a blessed day.
That's got to be Texas. That's got to be a Texas thing.
Yeah. I love it.
When I love it. In the Navy, I knew somebody who, there was like one person who would always say that to everybody. And then there was this one person I worked with who would always be like, no, I don't want to.
Oh.
Just like, way to make it awkward. It was always in like official situations too, where the one person would be like, have a blessed day. And they'd be like, no.
Oh, God.
Oh.
It's like, well, I guess no one's telling that person what kind of day to have.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I won't.
I will have a terrible day. My day has been cursed.
Rebels.
Right. Opposite.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that we are on together because we have a great topic to talk about today, which I think, everybody really struggles with, which is having a social life and reaching your fitness goals.
Yeah. Definitely. Like everybody's always kind of, chasing that balance, right? Like that was the big buzzword a couple of years ago on the old Instagram was balance. And, it can definitely be a little tricky to find it, especially, I always say this whenever you're first starting out on your journey, like let's say you've never tracked a calorie before, you've never stepped foot in a gym. You heard people talk about, going to the gym and you thought like, man, I don't know who Jim is in this town, but he must be really popular. You start getting into this, and it seems like you're embarking on, climbing a mountain, so to speak, and it's really easy to be a couple of weeks in and go, oh my gosh, I've got to eat all this protein and all this produce, and I'm doing all these exercises and all this time in the gym, and when am I going to get together with my friends for a happy hour? Or, oh my gosh, I can never go to a wedding and enjoy, a piece of cake. Like, no, there's absolutely a way to find that balance. And the more that you get into living this kind of a lifestyle where you're being aware of your nutrition, you're staying active, fit, and strong and healthy, the more you start to go, oh, here's how I do this. The more you start to find these little tricks of the trade, so to speak, that can now make this a really easy, almost like an afterthought. Like for me, going to a wedding, I don't put any thought into my nutrition anymore because I've been tracking my macros for 17 years. Like it's just as second nature to me as the fact that I wake up and I brush my teeth every morning. But that came with years and years and years worth of tracking. Like my tracking age can almost legally vote. It can drive a car, all right? So we're going to...
That's a long time, man. Like 17 years? Bam.
I had no tattoos and a full head of hair whenever I first started tracking macros. Like, that really says something.
Have you always used the same app for it, Phil?
What's that?
Have you always used the same app? Like I've been using my FitnessPal for like as long as I can remember. And so I have a streak on there of some ridiculous like 6,000 days or something like that. And so then when it's like, if I forget and I'm having a weekend where I'm not necessarily tracking like in the app, but I'm just like keeping everything going in my head and it'll send me the notification and be like, don't miss out. Like you've tracked this many days. Don't miss out on today. And I'm like, oh shit, I better get in there. Because now I don't want to mess up.
When I first started tracking, actually, because this would have been back in 2005, there wasn't like smartphones. Even I'm so old, I swear. So there wasn't back in
You're
my
younger than me,
day.
I think, by the way.
What? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Don't
I think
say.
you're younger than me.
Well, so I just had to do the math this past weekend and actually figure out my age. Like, you're getting old whenever you can't even actually off the top of your head remember how old you are. And I just had to actually do the math on my phone. So I'm
But that's a
33.
dad thing, I feel like. Like, do you
Dude,
ask
I'm older
Nikki
than you.
where you're like, how old am I? Right, we're both older than him, I think. And he's sitting here talking about how old he is.
God, grandma's over here. Come on.
Well, no, I mean, let's face it. You two are aging like fine wines. I'm aging like old meat. Like, I'm just deteriorating day by day. That's what happens with us guys. We just get worse and worse, But no, when I first started tracking, like 2005, there wasn't smartphones, there wasn't apps. I had to do everything in an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, by hand.
Yep.
I would have
Yep, by candle fire with no indoor plumbing, watching out for the dinosaurs roaming the streets. It was hell. But that's actually something that I always talk to my clients about, though, whenever it comes to managing and balancing any kind of like a social event, like, hey, it's your kid's birthday, or it's your anniversary dinner, or hell, you're going on vacation. Like, look, if I was able to do all this with a spreadsheet and having to go to USDA.gov for the nutritional database to find the information for a banana, then do the conversion myself of grams to figure out the exact amounts of fats and carbs and protein. Like, look, if I can do that at 16 years old with that as a resource, hey, having it all in your phone in one app just makes the process that much easier and much more doable. So, one of the big things, though, with managing social engagement, I feel like, is just setting yourself up with the right expectations of, hey, why am I doing this? Okay, if it's one of my kids' birthdays, I'm having a piece of cake on their birthday because it's a precious memory that comes once a freaking year. I'm not worried about, oh my God, is the scale going to be up 5 pounds tomorrow? Well, no, it's not, because I'm just moderating it and I'm saying, hey, having a piece of cake, I'm still sticking with my food earlier in the day, but hey, it's just going to be one little bump as far as my digestion goes. Might be a little fluctuation on the scale, but probably not going to be that much, honestly.
Yeah, I like what you said about your kid and the birthday party and that sort of thing, because I think that comes up really often with clients is, having these social engagements, but just determining the quote unquote importance of those. Because I would say, like, sharing a birthday, like a piece of birthday cake or what have you with your kid, like, that's important. So, like, you have that. But, if there is a outing every freaking weekend that just kind of spirals into some wild behaviors and wild choices, well, do you need to engage in that every week? Could you pick that hard, right? Like, you always have to choose your hard in whatever like goal that you're working towards. So that hard choice might be not doing those things with all of those people that kind of like spiral down into not so awesome choices. Or that hard might be, hey, my progress might be a little bit slower, but there are some really important, things that I want to do with my family that do include food. And that's totally part of the process.
Absolutely. Like, for me, I know in my family, like, May and June are incredibly busy months. Like, just in May alone, I've got my brother-in-law's birthday, I've got my sister's birthday, we've got Mother's Day, we've got my daughter's birthday. Then in June, it's my grandfather's birthday, it's my birthday, it's Father's Day. We always do a big annual family trip to the beach with like 12 of us. So I know that during those months, I don't have the expectation of I'm going to be in any kind of a calorie deficit, because it's literally something every other week. And if you know that you've got something like that coming up, then maybe just plan for a bit of a maintenance phase instead and just kind of shift that goal. Or like, hey, once July starts rolling around, that's where I start picking my heart of, you know what, 4th of July is here. Yeah, I'm going to have a burger. I'm also the grill master because dad status. But hey, it's great that I'm using 93.7 ground beef or 96.4 instead of using like 80-20 or 70-30. I'm controlling that. Is it more effort to be the person in charge of the grill? Yeah, it's a little bit more, but I'm also getting that reward. So I'm choosing, I'm not able to, relax in the pool with a drink, but I'm sitting by the grill and I know that nutritionally things are going to be kept more in line with where I want them. No one's going to be able to tell the difference on my 93.7 burgers either because they still taste absolutely amazing. So, choosing that little bit of extra work for me starts to become worth it. And that's usually about the time that things kind of really tighten up personally. And if I've got any physique related goals, I want to do a photo shoot or, I want to just, hey, let me get a little bit leaner. That's usually whenever I start saying, you know what, if I'm going out with my friends, I'm not having any alcohol or I'm only having one drink and I'm accounting for it in my macros. I think that we've all probably been in that situation where, hey, everyone else has a drink in their hand, but hey, you know what? I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying the time spent with people, and I'm also just enjoying this Diet Coke or Coke Zero.
I was going to say, just have a 0-calorie drink. Go ahead, Christina.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say with like some of what you guys said in there, you brought up the point of people going into situations where it's like plan ahead for it. Think about the fact that, okay, this might require you to, go off of like the most perfect plan or something. And I feel like a big part of that comes down to when people get into these situations, it becomes this like, oh God, there's never going to be another birthday party again. Mm-hmm. So I better have chips and I better have 2 hot dogs and I should have 3 slices of cake. And it starts like adding up because they feel like they're all of a sudden in this food desert and like,
scarcity.
Well, if I don't eat all of it, then someone's feelings are going to be hurt. And I want to have you ever gone to a party and literally studied someone's plate and then been personally offended by their and if you have, then we need to talk about that because that's an entirely different issue. But like for the most part, I think people get themselves into trouble because it'll be, well, we've got these plans this weekend. And so my whole weekend is fucked. And it's like, why? Like you can have 1 slice of cake. And if that's all you go over, cool. If it's one untracked meal for that evening and you're enjoying yourself and you're eating in a way that makes you leave without a stomach ache and you are just feeling satisfied and like you had a good time, we can come back from that within the next 24 to 48 hours, as long as we just get back on track. But if you're going into it like, oh, well, I have dinner with my girlfriends this weekend, and so I'm going to order like 3 different appetizers and an entree, and we're going to get a million dessert, and like you're just escalating it because it's like, if I don't have all the fun this weekend.
Uh-oh, we cut out. That's okay. I was actually going to mention, that mindset going in first of all, right? Like how are you approaching that? And that can really shoot yourself in the foot. Is that the saying?
Yeah. Shoot yourself in the foot. So one, yes, totally the same, but the mindset of going into any kind of a social event, one of the things that Christina touched on was kind of peer pressure, right? Of like, hey, have you ever had it to where you're watching someone else's plate? And the answer is no. At the same time, don't worry about if someone is doing that. Like the only instance I can ever think of where, someone was worried about what's on my plate has been at like Thanksgiving. And it's more just a matter of somebody, maybe gets a little offended or hurt if I don't have what it is that they brought. So like basically those kind of potluck type events. And honestly, even
we are back. We had some technical difficulties, but that's okay. What we were talking about before we kind of lost Christina was navigating social events and how people might make, some kind of comments or feel you or make you feel, excuse me, some type of way when you're choosing your foods.
Right.
So anyways, oh yeah, Christina, you go ahead.
No, I had nothing. I just wanted to fill silence. I got awkward.
Well, I'm definitely familiar, like personally to that because you want to please the people who are maybe bringing a dish to your gathering. Or Phil, you mentioned something about Thanksgiving and wanting to like
if Aunt Gertrude makes her, potato casserole or, broccoli casserole, whatever it is, if she's been making it for 40 years for the family Thanksgiving, she might be the person that's kind of looking at your plate like, well, why didn't you get any of my casserole? Why didn't you try any of the pie that I made or whatever, and it's easy to kind of feel some of that peer pressure with our food choices at social events. And I always just want to say, all right, let's first evaluate, how much weight are we giving this? How important are we ranking this event? Like, hey, if it's Thanksgiving or Christmas and I'm getting together with my family, it's a big special once a year type thing. You know what? That is a high priority for me. Just like my kids' birthdays, just like my wife's birthday, just like my anniversary. Those are high priority days. But if I take a look at something like, hey, it's a gathering for, one of my younger cousins' high school graduations, like that's not really a big priority event for me. And I really don't care what I've got on my plate. And I especially don't really care what anyone else thinks of what I've got on my plate. Like I'm probably going to eat beforehand because, all right, I love my uncle, but he makes the world's most delicious jalapeno poppers, and they're wrapped in bacon and stuffed with cream cheese, and they've got bacon bits in them. Sorry, Uncle Albert, I'm giving away your recipe, but it's amazing, and it's really calorically dense though. And if I'm in any kind of a fat loss phase, I go, all right, well, he's going to make those poppers again at his next barbecue in probably a couple of months or in a couple of weeks. It'll still be there. Especially if I, talk to him and go, hey, the poppers look and smell amazing like they always do. I can't have any today. It just isn't fitting into my macros. I've got this photo shoot coming up in 4 weeks. Is there any chance for your 4th of July barbecue? I could request these. I'll get you the ingredients. You just tell me what to do. And now, hey, his feelings aren't hurt. I've communicated like, hey, here's why I'm having to be a little bit restrictive with my calories. Here's why I'm asking, hey, would you mind if I bring some chicken to throw on the grill? It's communicated, it's understood. And also now it's, hey, I'm not trying to pressure anybody into eating the way that I eat, but this is something that is important to me. And again, if it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, sure, I'm going to not worry about my calories that day. I'm just going to be mindful of when should I stop eating? When am I full? But if it's something, like I said, like a high school graduation, or it's a, get together with my friends for, one of their kids' birthdays. Look, if I've got the goals of losing some body fat and being on track with my calories, well, it's not my kid. I'm probably not having a piece of cake that day. Big deal. It's sheet cake from Publix in Florida. I guarantee it. Publix will have more sheet cake.
Well, I think you brought up like a really good point though, is because you like talking to other people about your goals and being like, hey, I'm just gonna have XYZ. Hey, I'm gonna bring my own chicken. Hey, etc. Not making a big deal out of it because it doesn't need to be a big deal. Like Christina, you mentioned, people like have this mindset of, oh my gosh, all of these things, and then just spirals, right? And it all obviously like brings up a lot of anxiety. When you just communicate your goals and be like, no, these are my choices today. I'm just going to skip on that. Thank you very much. And move on. That can be a really big kind of stepping stone in your journey.
yeah, you just lay it out there and like, this is what it is. And I like to talk to clients about like, if you're introducing your goals or the fact that you've made a lifestyle change to somebody that you're nervous about telling them about it for whatever reason, be firm about it and be excited about it. Because
Yeah.
if you go into that conversation with like, no, I can't have anything today
Ugh,
because I'm
yeah.
doing this. And like, you're very like, I hate this. And then they're going to be like, well, that sounds dumb. You
Oh,
should
just
have
have a
this and
bite.
try to talk you
Enjoy
into something
yourself.
else.
Mhm.
Right. But if you're like, nope, I'm really excited about this. I'm putting like money and time and effort, and I can't wait to see like where this takes me. Like that looks great. I can't wait to have it next time. And then just it's done. It's cut and dry. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'll do next time. You know, like you can kind of just kick the can down the road of I'll have the jalapeno poppers next time. And like you move on, and it doesn't need to be up for conversation. Like it's one of those things that it's funny because I feel like food and our choices around them and things like that, like talking to people, it can be something so intimate where we
Yeah.
have this relationship with our food and stuff like that. But then it's also one of those things where other people can feel like it's so okay to jump in and have something to say about your personal relationship with your decisions around food and things.
Yeah.
And but if you were to come at them and be like, well, maybe I think you shouldn't have that cake, all hell would break loose.
Right.
Right.
You know?
Suddenly
Oh
And
you're
my
the
so,
asshole.
God. Yeah, and people's
right.
comments on your choices, I find a lot of times are maybe a reflection of how they're feeling about themselves or their own choices. And if you kind of flip the script and think about it that way, like, yeah, you're not going to make any kind of comment about like, oh, well, you're talking about how uncomfortable or XYZ full you are, but you're making these choices. Okay, like you're not going to make those comments. But like you said, like being just strong with yourself and strong with your choices and knowing that, you know what, like these people are literally going to make those comments and then leave and not give a flying F about you again. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to be like, "Oh, Christina like didn't eat my casserole," like whatever it is. They don't care. Nobody cares.
And then that also starts to get into like, why are we giving certain people any kind of power or stock, with their opinions of what we're doing? Like, okay, I've been doing this for a really long time. My whole family knows, like, hey, Phil eats a shit ton of protein. Phil eats his veggies. Like, they just know that's how I am. So nobody makes those comments. In fact, the last time that I had to deal with anything like that was back whenever I first met my wife, Nikki, and started going over to her family's stuff, flying up to New Jersey. And now I'm around a whole group of people that, like, I'm the one that introduced Nikki into flexible dieting and tracking her macros. So I seemed like the cult leader to them. They're like, "What the hell? You're eating chicken and broccoli, and you're having a banana, and you're doing all this stuff. Why do you have a food scale? Are you a drug dealer?" And people that they mean a lot to, at the time, whenever we're dating, like, hey, she means a lot to me. She's special to me. These people are special to her. They mean a lot to her. It's her family. So it's going to take the time to explain to them, like, hey, everything is good. Now, she had one cousin that was a total dick and still a dick, that just wouldn't let it go. And finally, I just said, look, I'm a grown-ass man, and I'm making decisions on what goes into my mouth. If you can't understand that, then you don't have to question it anymore. Whenever I've taken,
And it's going to be my fist.
Right? You're about to get served a knuckle sandwich, son.
Next, you're going to eat a knuckle sandwich.
You
Choosing your macros.
Yeah, but you're coming at about it in a really productive way, and you set boundaries, and that can be like really scary and challenging for a lot of people. But like you have to set those boundaries, and being clear with people, because you're right, you are going to get those people that are like, oh, okay, and totally fine with it, and then you know what, you might get those people who are going to push back or have whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the person that's going to push back, like, that particular cousin, like, look, I don't care about your opinion. Your opinion literally means zero to me. Like, I care more about the dirt in my backyard than I do your thoughts. So, it's again, just, it kind of shows who's worth investing, yourself into. Because if somebody can't understand, like, hey, I'm doing this for my health, like, whenever I was over 330 pounds, the shock realization I had was, how many people are in their 70s and almost 350 pounds? Not many.
Your environment matters, yeah.
Exactly. And once I started saying, you know what, all this stuff matters to me because I want to be 80 years old and doing chin-ups in front of my grandkids, like, that's what everything I do is all geared towards, is living a long, healthy life, and a big part of that is our nutrition and our activity levels.
Yeah.
So one of the things we haven't talked about yet that I feel like come up a lot when we're talking to people about managing social events and trying to stick to things is alcohol.
Yeah.
And how, like, it can be difficult to track. People are going to be pushing it on you if they're drinking. And once you break that seal, it can be really easy to fall into more drinks than you were planning on. And then also get like snacky and start eating a whole bunch of things that you weren't planning on having. But now that you've had 3 glasses of wine, it's like, you know what? I do need some pizza. And everything starts to sound delicious. And that's one of the things where, depending on the person, sometimes I'll tell people, and the event, right? So like how Phil had mentioned, if it's your anniversary and you're going to dinner or something and you're going to a nice, like you're going somewhere nice for your dinner and they're going to have a beautiful wine list or something, then I'll tell people, like, yeah, get the bottle with your husband, enjoy the night, have a good time.
Yeah,
but if
totally.
you're going over to somebody's birthday party and you don't really care about the situation and like they're going to have beers there, but you don't, like, it doesn't matter, then you can skip it, right? Like, it's not going to be, if they're just going to have Miller Lite, they're going to have Miller Lite everywhere, and you don't need to go have that one. And like, so establishing those boundaries, a big thing I have to throw in here because it murders me when I talk to people about this. You can't just log 2.6 grams of carbs for a Michelob Ultra.
Oh my God, no.
It's not how it works.
I mean, we all wish.
Yes.
It's not only 9 calories.
Yeah, like your White Claw doesn't have 2 grams of carbs. Like, let's talk about that. So, Christina, how would you like log that?
Okay, so they're all going to have, for the most part, calories on them, right? Sometimes I've got to Google. So, like, I have fallen into this, like, love affair with IPAs lately. And so you can just Google a lot of times if it's not on the can. But say it says 100 calories. That's what a White Claw is, right? I think they're 100 calories on the can.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
they make it nice and easy. We're going to log it as either carbs or fats because we can't choose alcohol in our tracker. And alcohol is actually 7 calories per gram. That's why it's not listed on your nutrition facts, but that's what
The 4th macronutrient.
That's right.
Right.
Alcohol
the
has
smoothie guy
calories.
that everyone wants to hang out with, but no one talks about.
Yeah.
And so we're going to take the 100 calories and say we're going to do carbs. Carbs are worth 4 calories per gram. They provide 4 calories of energy. And so we're going to divide the 100 by 4, and we're going to call it 25 carb. And that way we can accurately pull from our calories, because when we're doing macro counting, like, I always tell people, just stop looking at the calories. And so if you log 100 empty calories, it's not going to adjust your carbs, your fats, or your protein. You're going to go over. So we take away 25 carb. I actually have entries in my Fitness Pal, if anyone uses that, like, send me an email and I'll tell you what to search for in there, and you can easily log it. I know Coach Danny has that as well, where she's pre-programmed a whole bunch of
have
stuff
it too.
in there, and I find that's the best way to do it. So I have 5-ounce wine glass in fat, like, saved in my thing if I want to log it as fat grams. I have beer as both, where it's divided evenly for carbs and fats, and that way you can have some freedom around the way that you're doing it. But I do tell my clients, you are not allowed to use protein for that. Like, you better eat your freaking protein with your beer.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. Like, I have like wine in there, I have tequila, I have the things that I know that I always like, if I do choose to have a drink, that I will log as such. And sometimes it'll be full carb, sometimes it'll be full fat, and sometimes I half and half, because then that allows just like leeway either way. And that's also going into like that planning ahead, right? And knowing what you're going to go into, and maybe that you want to have a drink at that event. Cool. Log it ahead of time, right? So then you can plan ahead. But you're totally right. Like just going in there. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, like if you just budget like, hey, I'm having 2 drinks, or you budget like, hey, I think I can fit in 2 drinks, but maybe for breakfast, instead of having peanut butter and a piece of toast, well, maybe I've just got to kind of make that choice for the day of, all right, do I want the toast with peanut butter for breakfast, or do I want to be able to go out and have this drink? Start to evaluate yourself and your own habits and go, all right, if I say, no, I'm going to go and I'm not going to have anything to drink, how likely are you to stick with it? If you're likely to stick with that plan, then fantastic. You're getting way more nutritional benefit from getting in some fiber, from getting in some protein, some healthy fats. But if you know that you're the type to go, man, if dad asks me to, have a beer with him, I'm not saying no, then plan ahead. Now, personally, I do the same thing, right? Like I have logs in my Macros Plus, because I'm the weirdo, for beer. I've got light beer. I've got, so I'm also an IPA fan, so I'll typically just assume on the higher side with the calories for those. I also really like stouts, which again is higher in overall calories. So I'll literally just have beer, light, beer, IPA, beer, stout. Those are my go-tos for beer. I'm also a big bourbon. Actually, so I'm actually a bourbon steward. So through the Stave and Thief Society. So I really enjoy having a bourbon, but also what is my purpose behind having it? Well, I like to distinguish the flavor profiles. I like to be able to tell, hey, this tastes like it was charred in a cherry oak barrel, or this tastes like it was charred in just a traditional hard oak barrel. I like being able to pull those flavors. And whenever I'm doing that, it's something that it's going to take me 45 minutes just to get through like a 1.5 ounce serving of it. So yeah, I'm accounting for it in my calories, but I'm also planning for it late in the day after I've gotten my protein, after I've hit all my other macros. Because here's the thing with consuming alcohol is your body is going to try to get rid of it and anything else that's trying to digest and process. So I don't want to lose that protein. I don't want to lose those fats. I'm a little bit of a stickler with myself, right? Like I tell my clients, yeah, you can track the calories as carbs or fats, but I always track my calories from alcohol as carbohydrate, simply because beer, hops, barley, yeast, carb, carb, and carb. Wine, grapes, carb.
Carbs.
Vodka, potato, carbs. Tequila, agave, plant, carbs. Whiskey, corn, carbs. Right? I don't know what gin comes from because I don't drink gin, but I'm sure it comes from the
making
carb.
something out of peanuts, is what I'm hearing.
Hey, well,
I want peanut alcohol.
Hey, if we can make oats out of nuts, then we can make alcohol out of peanuts too.
Right?
But that's my personal philosophy, and also just finding the philosophy that works for you for your approach. Now, if you're also using, if you're using alcohol as a coping mechanism instead of just, hey, I'm, going out, I'm having a drink with my friends or whatever, well, it's a whole different conversation, and maybe we should be a little bit more restrictive, or maybe you should talk to a professional counselor about, hey, what's a good idea, what's a good approach for me. I always tell people, don't try to use tracking your macros as a means to fix any kind of possible alcohol addiction issues, because it's something that I've seen a few times as a coach. So while yes, it can be enjoyed, we have to also look at, the benefit versus the risk. You might wake up the next day with a horrible hangover. You might wake up the next day and your sleep is thrown off for the next 4 or 5 days. Now you've got terrible recovery. Terrible recovery leads to increased injury risk. So understanding like, hey, if we're doing this, do it in moderation, plan for it. Have a plan for the next day already in place too.
Yeah, I think having that open and clear, the conversation with clients is like, hey, alcohol is a toxin to your body. I'm not saying don't have a drink. I'm also just a very big fan of informed consent. So I will be very, very clear with my clients. Alcohol is a toxin to your body. Like you said, Phil, your body will like deal with that toxin prior to doing anything else in your body. So if you have eaten while you had a drink, if you're drinking later at night, that sort of thing can kind of, it's a downward spiral effect, as in it won't digest your body will not prioritize digestion. It will not prioritize recovery. It will not prioritize all of the other things that's happening or that could happen in your body. So yeah, you sleep shitty. Your food doesn't get digested, and then you have like digestional distress. Maybe you got the poops, maybe you don't, right? Your performance the next day might suck because alcohol does dehydrate you. So you might be experiencing dehydration, right? Like you just need to know some of these things and go into it with a like very like mindful situation where, okay, I'm going to have some of this alcohol and these are the things that are going to happen because of it.
So do y'all ever
I like to have a look at the percentage of calories. Oh, sorry, Phil.
No,
that's
no, that's a great one,
I like to have
actually.
them look at so like, do you want to look at your day, and if you're drinking a bottle of wine like routinely, and we're adding that up, and we're hitting like 400 to 600 calories of wine every single night, but you're trying to tell yourself, well, I only eat 1,200 calories a day. Like, are you happy to tell other adults 50% of my caloric intake comes from alcohol on a regular basis?
Yeah,
but
like that's a lot.
How often do we talk to people where they swear they eat 1,200 calories a day and then they're drinking all of these calories and like not equating for it? And it's like, you look at how it says so much about why your body's doing what it's doing, right? If we're just routinely putting that much into it. And so what I'll do is have somebody break that down as like an exercise where they're like, well, it's important to me that I have this cocktail every single night. I was talking to somebody who routinely has like 2 or 3 glasses of wine every single evening. And it was something they were like, this is important to me to have. And, but I want to build muscle and I want to be leaner. And I was like, okay, well, let's talk about why that's going to stop everything from happening. Like, can you muscle your way through this? Yes, but it's going to take a shit ton of effort for you to overcome the fact that you're shutting your body down. You're pissing it off. You're constantly in recovery mode from the alcohol, not from the workouts. And so looking at the percentage of calories can kind of help like jar them from that. And so I like to try and say, if we're going to have something, let's not exceed like 10 to 15%. If it's a special occasion, maybe 20% of our daily calories are going to alcohol. But like, if you start thinking of it that way, a glass of wine is going to be anywhere from 130 to like 150 for a normal pour. And if somebody's eating 1,800 calories a day, you're not fitting that second glass in necessarily if you're sticking to like the 10%-ish range. And so it helps kind of put that automatic break in there where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to say I spent this much of my daily calories on alcohol, and so I'm going to be more okay with pulling back.
That's a really good point that you make. What do you guys say to clients? Because we're all going to fuck up. Like, we're all going to, like, quote unquote, make a mistake. We're all going to go out and consume a little bit too much, whether it's food or alcohol or both. I know how I kind of choose to go, like, come back from that. And it does depend on the client. But, like, how do you guys feel? Or, like, what are some of the things that you tell your clients when they have like had a night out?
5 hours of cardio the next day and 800 calories max. All protein, no
punishment.
Cut out all carbs.
You're going to grab a carton of liquid egg whites and just chug it, and that's all you get. No,
sick.
The plan for my clients.
That's how you get it all up, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. All ends.
No, like what I tell my clients is, hey, if we know that we're going to have some alcohol, right? Like, I had a guy go on his bachelor party. Go enjoy it. It's part of your life. It's part of the human experience. Like, whenever you get married, if you're fortunate enough to have good friends around you that they say, hey, we want to take you out, we want you to have a good time, if that includes some alcohol, then look, go enjoy it. But just recognize that, hey, we do need to be staying hydrated, right? Like, that's one of I tell people, look, make the non-negotiable because you're not going to break a promise to yourself. All right. So just go into the evening with the non-negotiable of, hey, I am having water before. I'm going to try to have some water afterwards. And then just the next day, just get right back on track, whenever it's done. Like, hey, if you're going away for a weekend for your bachelor party, it'll probably be Monday, but have yourself already set up for success before you even leave. So go grocery shopping, maybe do some meal prepping, get some freezer bags, stick the prepped meat in the freezer, done. Already have Monday and Tuesday planned out for, okay, whenever I get back, I'm having my usual breakfast, I'm having my usual lunch, dinner, pre-workout, post-workout, my usual snacks. Like, already have that done, because otherwise what happens, you come back from that bachelor party weekend or, the anniversary dinner, and the next day, if you don't already have a plan in place, then you're just, flying by the seat of your pants. And that's how you end up with, oh crap, I didn't have anything planned for breakfast, so let's go hit up Starbucks, and the next thing you know, you're getting
3 cake pops in.
Yeah, 3 cake pops. You're getting the bullshit at I don't speak Starbucks. My wife orders it for me because I don't understand the language.
I totally am the Starbucks.
So it's delicious. It is absolutely delicious. I don't know what Nikki gets me, but I know it's like 8 grams of carbs in a medium, or whatever Starbucks calls it, the medium.
Grande.
Vic tells me to get him the protein latte. And because I told him how if you get like a venti latte, like just the milk, like if you get non-fat milk, like you actually get a decent amount of protein because they give you a lot of milk and like a big one. Yeah. And so it's funny because now he calls it his protein latte, and there's nothing special about it. It's just a latte.
It's just 20 ounces of like skim milk.
Milk. So it cracks me up because he's like, whatever the protein latte thing is, and I'm like, yeah, a venti latte.
Venti latte. Wow, 8 grams. 8 grams of carbs. Can I get that recipe? I want that. Follow the macro barista on Instagram, by the way, guys. Do it if you like Starbucks. Anyways, Phil, you were saying that it like starts to kind of like fall downhill. Yeah, when you don't have a plan in place.
Yeah, because then like that bachelor party weekend or that anniversary dinner turns into, all right, well, it's now a 3-day weekend, and then, well, I already came and shot myself in the foot. I'm stealing that again from you, Jess, since you used it earlier. I'm shooting myself in the foot already on Monday, so what's the big deal? It's already been 3 days. What's a 4th? All right, well, I've had half of a week of not doing anything productive for my goals. Let me just take the week off. Let me take this mental break. And look, do we occasionally get a little diet fatigue? Do we need a mental break or a true diet break? Yes, absolutely. But it should be something that's planned and not something that you're not communicating with your coach of, I'm just doing whatever the hell I want for this week. Like, no, let's still have plans. Let's still have some kind of structure. But that's the biggest thing, though. Like I said, is just already be planning ahead before you even go out for that special event. What are you doing the next day? Already have that plan in place. Maybe consider hydrating a little bit more than usual, like the usual 20 ounces of water before coffee. That I think, Jess, you're the one who does it. Also, Christina, you also caught on.
Just started.
Yeah. So, hey, maybe what I'm doing that next day is, instead of doing 20 ounces before I have my coffee, all right, maybe I'm doing like 30 ounces just to get a little bit more fluid going.
Some of the things that I talk to my clients about, well, it's like that mindset going into that and then also coming out of that, right? And practicing some self-compassion, because we are not perfect beings and we will mess up. But then come to terms with that and be like, okay, so what now? What is your next choice? What is your next opportunity? Make it appropriately. And depending on the client, I might even have them track or like try to backtrack their way from that night out. Again, depending on the client and their mindset and like where they are, because that can really help sometimes have someone just like face their fear of, oh, this is how many calories I basically consumed. Okay, So now I just need to go in again, informed consent. We have the knowledge of how many calories we ate, and we can move forward with how to have a plan next time. Another thing is if it's, 200-300 calories over, again, depending on the client, I'm like, okay, that next week, maybe just account for it throughout the rest of your week. Depending on the client, my general rule of thumb, just get back at it and move your body in ways that feel good, because people usually, if their digestion or whatever is off track, I'm like, okay, go for a morning walk, get some movement in, can really help just in terms of get out of that groggy feeling. Don't go to the gym and kill yourself. No, that's probably a great recipe for injury, but moving your body a little bit more post a night out, that could be good.
Yeah, I think just hopping back on the horse and getting back to normal can be the best. I know sometimes I'll have clients say in their check-in, maybe I didn't find out about something right away, and they'll be like, oh, I went over because of this. So the next day I reduced by that much. And I know I've done it with myself too, but these days with myself and with my clients, for the most part, I will say not to do that, because I feel like it can be, if it works for someone, wonderful.
Yes.
I feel like more often than not, it ends up being this binge restrict cycle.
Yep.
Where
I agree.
they routinely have days where they're going over, and then the next day they're eating nothing, which of course leads to the next day going over, and then it just becomes this cycle of things. So it's one of those where I feel like it's hard, because I'm sure we've all used it with ourselves, and it makes sense in on paper, but I almost just feel like it can be a slippery slope for trying to do that. And so I feel like a lot of the times what people need to hear when it comes to having a social life and trying to live the fit lifestyle or the macro tracking or whatever is it's not that serious. It's really just not when it comes to all of this. You just have to have some pre-planning and thinking ahead, and then act like an adult who has said something was important to them. And you're not a toddler in the pantry. You can go to a party and say, I know it's better for me to have this or that, and so I'm going to have a balanced plate. And then you can indulge a little bit, and then you can get back to normal the next day. And if you stick to those ideas of just saying, I'm going to be intelligent about the decisions I'm making, and then tomorrow when I'm at home and I'm in my routine and I can control every single controllable, I'm going to, you're going to find success with it, and you're going to live a life where you're getting in more protein and vegetables and water and movement than a vast majority of the people you know. And it doesn't have to take over your life 100%. You just have to be smart about it. And like Phil had said, keep those promises to yourself and own the fact that that's what you want in life. And if you do that, you'll be good to go. You don't have to the next morning be a scientist doing all these equations with what do I take away now and all of that. I think that's where people will.
That's stressful.
It's that Instagram reel that everyone's doing now, where it's the how long have I been doing this for? And it's been 20 seconds. They go into one social event and it's hard, and they're screw it, I can't do it. Call it. I'm over it.
Yeah. Yeah, this shit's hard. It's not easy, but you're right. Being an adult's not easy. Do I like brushing my teeth every day? I mean, I don't know. My husband loves brushing his teeth. He loves it. He loves oral hygiene. So that's cool. That's his jam. Great. But you know what I mean? You don't have to take it so seriously. And there's lots of opportunities. Phil, you said something about you're out with your friends or family or whatever it is. It doesn't need to always be about food. What about those other activities that don't need to be centered around food? Yes, there are a lot of things that are centered around food. That's part of our culture. But things like bowling or going for a walk outside with my husband at the end of the day is one of my favorite things to do, because it reconnects me with him at the end of the day. It's more about spending quality time with those individuals and enjoying, celebrating, whatever, hanging out, just being a social human being.
Yeah, not everything has to be centered around food, and that's something that I work with a large amount of husbands and wives that they're both on the same plan with having goals, related to fitness, health, or physique. And I remember there's been several couples that I've talked to, and like, all right, well, we typically will do this trivia night with our friends. It's usually at like a Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever. So how do we account for that? I tell them, well, first off, recognize, what are you there for? Are you there for the food? Don't get me wrong, I like Buffalo Wild Wings too, but guess what? If you're there, they're going to have the same menu in a month and in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just for that day, you go, you know what? I'm there for the trivia. Maybe we eat beforehand, and while we're there, all right, instead of ordering a pitcher of beer, we're having a Diet Coke, or maybe we're just having one beer. Or hey, if I'm there and I start to get a little hungry, what I'm going to account for is just getting some of the naked chicken tenders where there's no added, breading. It's not deep fried. It's just grilled chicken, and you can go onto their website and you can track it. You're there for the trivia night. You're not there for the food that particular night. It just happens to be a place that has food. Or like, everyone makes the joke that essentially, like, I guess I do almost live on a bit of a compound. So we live on a dead end street, and there's, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 houses on the entire street. So 4 and 4. We're on one side, me and my family. Across the street from us is my parents. Next door to them is my grandmother. And if you go across the pond, I know banjos are playing right now as I'm saying this, but if you keep going, you drive past the pond, there's my sister's house. So literally half of my family lives on my family lives and makes up half of this street. The funny thing is that it's another family that owns 3 of the other 4 houses. But we've got ponds, we've got creeks. Like, most of the time, if my kids are wanting to spend time with grandma and grandpa, or Mima, or Aunt Crystal, or their cousins, we're outside and we're just playing. And it's interesting already that I can see with my kids that food isn't always the focus of family gatherings and get-togethers and playing. It's, hey, we're going to just go fishing in the creek, or we're just trying to catch some grasshoppers to feed the chickens, or whatever. Like, those are events and memories, and guess what? There's not a single macro to be tracked for something like that.
It's a social life, right? Like, when Jess said that, I felt like it popped out so much when you're talking about your walks, and how at the end of the day you guys get to chat and have that connection. And the entire topic of this podcast has been social lives. And so it wasn't eating lives, and it is important. I think our relationship with food can be something that's like really joyful. And I mean, I love to bake for people. So like, it's my love language, like bringing some combination of too much butter, too much sugar, and too much flour. Like, I completely get that can be like the centerpiece of situations. But I think, when you've gone successfully through a dieting phase, or like when you're taking something more seriously with your macros and stuff, and you get through that first event where you go to it and you're like, I'm going to stick to my stuff. Like, I've already prepared ahead of time. I can do this. And you get through the first one and realize that the entire time there, you don't have to have your hand in the chip bowl, or you don't have to be sipping on a cocktail or something like that. It's so much easier than you think it's going to be. And I feel like you gain a lot of confidence with it. And so I always want to tell people, like, yeah, it's no big deal. Like, just go enjoy yourself, like, with whatever it is coming up, because I want everyone to have fun. But then, if depending on where their goals are, if it's like, no, like, I can't say that we can just drop everything and go into this. Like, I need you to be on point and plan ahead for this situation. The next check-in, it'll be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, nobody told me I wasn't allowed at Christmas because I didn't eat this thing, or like, something like that. Nobody slapped my water bottle out of my hand. And like, you can get through it. And it just comes down to looking at where you are and what you're trying to work towards, prioritizing like what needs to be paid attention to and building off of that.
Building up those little tiny wins, right? Like not every time is going to be like monumentally perfect. But like you said, it's like, oh, I just brought my own water bottle maybe to a social gathering, or you weren't eating out of a chip bowl the entire time. It's like these little things that kind of build on top of one another, and then yeah, exactly. It's not as
You build
hard
that
as it needs to
momentum.
be. Yeah.
You build that momentum and you just keep it going. You know, an object in motion stays in motion, right? Like it's one of Newton's laws. So once you've got that momentum with tracking your food, that's where you start to build up. And now you're able to go, all right, do I need to go crazy for every single event that comes up? You know, oh, there we go. There's my opportunity to get away from my goals. You know, my next door neighbor got a new smoker, so they invited us over for a barbecue. Like, look, that's fantastic, but is that really that important of an event? You know, or hey, I went over there and, you know, it was good. I had a small little bit of the pork that I smoked, and I just maybe said, you know, let me save 15 grams of fat. I had a small serving. I feel good. I'm still making progress. Like, once you make that progress and you're continuously working towards your goals and doing the things that are going to get you the results that you're saying you want, you built that momentum up. And the next thing you know, you look back and you go, man, I've come such a long way, and I've got a good relationship with food. I'm accomplishing my goals. I'm still able to enjoy a barbecue or enjoy Thanksgiving or enjoy a piece of birthday cake. And it's just not a big deal, and it becomes second nature. Yeah, there are going to be people that, you know, kind of like Jess with your husband, you know, he gets excited to brush his teeth. We get excited to track our macros. But for other people, it just becomes second nature. And it's like, you know, it's just normal that I'm eating my protein and I'm eating produce and I'm exercising a few days a week. And once you get to that point, you know, figuring out how am I approaching these social situations, how am I approaching these special events, it can become less and less of a potential speed bump for you, or it can just become something that you go, oh, I'm excited. I get to actually plan out, like I'm having 2 drinks and I'm having a steak for my anniversary dinner. Bam, I'm pumped. I'm excited about it.
Right, you know, totally.
But you don't know if you don't build that momentum.
That is such a good point.
I like it.
Well, I feel like we've covered kind of, you know, everything. Being an adult, not taking it so seriously, but you do need to take it seriously in order to get to that point where it becomes second nature. Do you guys have anything that you want to add?
No, I think we got it pretty good.
Well, the only thing that I want to add is my usual send-off. I'm definitely in the mood. Okay, I'm definitely in the mood for dad joke today.
Okay.
What is the Easter Bunny's favorite type of music? Hip hop.
Ha. I feel like there's always that like quiet pause.
I love setting those up. I actually I cracked up Ellie because she's super big into animals, so I've been doing a lot of like animal dad jokes. The one that I told her last night, because we've been studying like marsupials. So I asked her, what do you call a lazy kangaroo? A pouch potato.
Oh. Christina, your face.
Get it? She kind of like looked at me, and then she just starts laughing because I'm like, huh? Like that was the part that cracked her up, was like me waiting for her to get it. Yeah. So there you go.
Vic gave me a good one with what happens if you eat aluminum foil? You sheet metal.
That's good. That's a good one.
Oh, see, I have another one. I want to tell you that he's really good, but I'll save it for next time.
You should. Yeah, I was going to say save it.
Yeah.
We'll just like rotate through dad jokes here as we close out the podcast. But with that, thank you everyone for listening. Please follow the Pro Physique Code on social media. You can listen on Spotify and Apple. I don't know how Apple works. I have an iPhone, but you know, it's the struggles of Apple. That's what it is. You can find all of us on Instagram if you want to reach out and you have questions. But I think that's it for today.
All right. Thank you all.
Well, have a great day, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.